Hi guys and welcome back. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a pumpkin bundt cake. Let's begin. To get started on the recipe, you'll want to grab yourself a large mixing bowl, and into your mixing bowl place your room temperature butter and your sugar, then beat them together until they are lighter and fluffier in colour and consistency. Due to the amount of butter being used, this does take around 7 to 10 minutes. It may take more or less time depending on where you are, but once you're happy with the consistency, you can then start to add in your eggs, one at a time, beating well in between each addition, being careful to not add the eggs too quickly as otherwise you might split or scramble the mixture, and if that does happen, just add a small amount of your pre-weighed flour, but don't worry, it shouldn't happen. Give your bowl a good scraping down, and again, this is just to incorporate any bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on, so don't forget to scrape down the very bottom and the top of the bowl. Then you can go ahead and add in the pumpkin puree, and just mix this in on a low speed to start with, working up to a medium-high speed until it's fully incorporated. Doesn't take too much time, but just make sure you will notice that it does look split or curdled. This is just due to the amount of water content in pumpkin puree. Stop the mixer, add in your dry ingredients, followed by your spices, and just mix on a low speed to start with, working right to a medium-high speed, and mix until you have a cake batter form, being careful to not over mix, but you also don't want to under mix, so just mix until it's the perfect consistency, looking a little bit like this. If you need to add any milk, add a tablespoon at a time. Give the bowl a good scraping down, and this is just to incorporate any dry bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on. So then you can go ahead and transfer this into your prepared bundt pan. I just buttered and floured mine, but feel free to do whatever you need to do it, as bundt cakes are difficult to work with sometimes, as they sometimes get stuck due to the crevices in there. But don't worry, add all your cake batter in, level it out as best as you can, then place into your preheated oven and bake it up. I will leave all that information in the blog post, which will be linked down below, so don't forget to check it out if you are interested. You will also need to double this recipe to make the pumpkin shape, but if you just want to make a pumpkin bundt cake, you just need to make one. To make the buttercream, grab yourself a mixing bowl and add in your egg yolks followed by the whole egg, and whisk this on a high speed until the mixture is much lighter and fluffier in colour and consistency. The volume should also increase quite considerably, so keep that in mind, as it should be almost white. While you're waiting for that to come up to temperature, into a saucepan add your sugar and water, then mix together until well combined. Place on the hob and allow it to come up to 121 degrees Celsius. It takes a little bit of time, but don't worry, it will be there as soon as. Once your mixture is looking something like this, you can then go ahead and add the hot liquid mixture into the egg mixture, being careful not to get this on your skin as it will burn and it will not be a pretty sight, so do this carefully, so I recommend turning the speed down. Then continue to whisk on a high speed to help cool down the mixture. You'll know when it's the perfect time to add in the butter, as the mixture will thicken up something like a bit like this, and you can touch the bottom of the bowl with the back of your hand and it won't burn. Then you can go ahead and start adding in your butter, chunk by chunk, until it's fully incorporated. If your butter is a little bit cold, you can add it a little bit earlier, and that will help to cool the mixture down. And don't worry, sometimes I'm making this and it doesn't look like it's coming together until the last few pieces of butter have been added. That's completely normal, don't worry, it does happen with this recipe. Once the last bit of butter has been added in, mix until fully incorporated, then add in your vanilla extract. Feel free to mix it in with the mixer, but I forgot to add it in earlier on, so I just folded it in by hand. Once it is fully incorporated, the buttercream is good to go and work with. So I split it a little bit and I keep around a quarter of it back and colour it green, and then the rest I colour orange, and I'm using this bright orange colour because I wanted it to stand out. This was a centrepiece and I wanted it really just to stand out, so I used the brightest orange I could find in my colours. Then for the green, you want something that's going to look a bit darker, because you want it to look like the top of the pumpkin. So I went with this dark leaf green, I think it is. Then once your cakes are baked and fully cooled, you can start to finish them. As the pumpkin isn't perfectly round, but these ridges are a bit too big, I trim away the pointed edges of the bundt cake. And again, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I just found it might work best to get the best shape. So I did this with both my cakes before I started the decorating process. To then start the decorating process, grab your plate, board or stand and smear a good amount of buttercream on the bottom, and this will act as the glue that will keep the cake in place. I'm using this plate as I didn't really need to use anything else. But then place your first layer of cake on and press it down, and this is just to secure it in place. Then you want to put a ring of buttercream in the middle. Feel free to pipe it on, but I wasn't really piping it on this cake. I was just, dolloping it on. So I just placed the buttercream on and then spread and level it out to get it as consistent as possible. And then you can go ahead and top it with your second cake. I baked with two Nordic way bundt pans, but there was two different ones. So there is a slight size difference. That's why they don't look perfectly on top of each other. Don't worry, that's fine. Then you can just go ahead and start coating the cake. You could give it a crumb coat, but this cake is not very crumbly. and it doesn't really need it, so you can just go in with a good generous amount of buttercream and just keep applying until you're happy. And again, it won't be perfect at first, it does take a bit of time to get the consistency right, and just to get, you know, a good coverage on the cake, but keep going until you're happy. As you can tell, I was still getting bits, you know, just do what you need to do it, and then once you're happy you can start to smooth it out. And again, I know pumpkin isn't perfectly smooth and they've got ridges, but I add those later on. But again, I'm not going to get perfect, so, and it's Halloween, so it's okay if it looks a bit rustic, should we say. That'll just add to the, you know, the effect. I'm using this kind of like flexy bit of plastic that I got in a scraper set and just smooth it out. Again, you can see there's a little bit of cake exposed. I don't care. You can be more of a perfectionist if you want. Then just add ridges in. They don't need to look perfect, but then I just added a ton of edible glitter just to, because I had it and it was orange. Then on top, pipe where the pumpkin stalk would be, and then let it chill for a bit and let the buttercream foam up. I left mine overnight, and then the following day I take it out of the fridge for about 45 minutes to an hour before I want it, and then I cut a piece. Believe me, you cut one piece of this and you can probably share it with 2-3 people, because it's a massive piece of cake. You've got 2 layers of cake, buttercream, it's not too much buttercream either, which is perfect. But that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more from me, and I'll be back again soon with another recipe, so join me then. In the meanwhile, don't forget to check out the description. There'll be a link to this recipe, a link to my blog, and links to all my social medias. But that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. Bye guys.